What's up, Zoners? Welcome to the Baltimore Ravens Start or Sit episode. Tonight is Week 11, Thursday Night Football. The Cincinati Bengals are going all the way to Baltimore to play a football game, a really good Thursday Night Football game for a change. I will be telling you who to start and who to sit for the Baltimore Ravens all the way down to the defense and kicker, if that sounds interesting to you. Hold on for 7 seconds.
You can do it!
What's up, Zoners? This is Tyler, Big Turd Ward, and Banjo, the Dawg, coming at you live from my garage. And this is the Fantasy Red Zone. Today's episode. So like I said in the intro, this is our Week 11 Play or Pause episode for the Baltimore Ravens Thursday Night Football. So if you have a problem with somebody on this list, you think that they should be played and not paused, please let me know in the comments. I typed out all my notes. I'm going to share that with you right now. All right, let's set the scene. The over and under for this game. You think it's going to be a defensive shutout type of game? Not. 45.5. I do love that. Baltimore is favored by only 3.5 points. That is great. I love that. It means that the running backs on both sides will be involved the entire game. It is going to be clear. 51 degrees with a 0% chance of precipitation. Let's look at the defensive schemes that the Ravens will be facing. The Cincinnati defense runs man coverage a little bit more than the league average, 11th in the league at 25.5%. Zone coverage, they do it a little bit less than average at 74%. We really want to look at these numbers when deciding whether to start or sit a wide receiver. First up, Lamar Jackson. I am pressing play on this fool. He is quarterback 6 on the year. That is probably where he was drafted before the season started. Cincinnati giving up the 12th most points to quarterbacks at 17.9. So that is a positive matchup. 223 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 8 rushes, which is probably about average, for 41 yards last week versus Cleveland. Cleveland has an amazing defense. He has not scored 14 plus fantasy points in the last 3 games, so he has fallen off as of late. He did have 22 fantasy points versus the Cincinnati Bengals in week 2 earlier this season, and that was at Cincinnati, and that was with a hobbled Joe Burrow. So Joe Burrow should be able to put up more points this time. I am looking for a rebound game from Lamar Jackson. Only 11. Oh yeah, Baltimore has scored 30 offensive touchdowns. That is tied for second in the league. So it's not like this offense has been bad. Only 11 of those touchdowns, though, have been through the air. That's 37%. The league average is closer to 60%, okay? So that is way off target there. No team has finished with less than 41%, air touchdowns relative to rushing touchdowns since 2009. So you can expect a positive touchdown progression for Lamar Jackson in the second half of the season. They do have a new offensive coordinator in Todd Monken, but that has not changed the fact that he still runs the hell out of the ball with his quarterback. Lamar Jackson is leading the NFL for quarterbacks in rushing attempts, and he is tied for second in red zone rushing attempts. So look for Lamar Jackson to rebound this game or in the future, the very near future. Next up, Gus Edwards. This guy is already running back 10 on the year. I'm pressing play on this dude. Cincinnati allowing the 16th most points to running backs at 18.8. That is an average matchup. He had 11 rushes for 24 yards and a touchdown, which is every single goddamn week for him lately. 1 reception for 4 yards versus Cleveland last week. He is playing 52% of the snaps. That was last week, even with Keaton Mitchel coming on hot. I do not think that he is going to be sacrificed for the Keaton Mitchell touches. We're going to be talking about the sacrificial dude here in a minute. So Gus Edwards should be fine heading in for the rest of the season. When you watch these games, he gets put on every time they're in the red zone. He gets put on the field. So, he is leading Baltimore in red zone rushing attempts with 21. 8 touchdowns on those 21 rushing attempts. That is only behind Raheem Mostert in efficiency. I think Raheem Mostert has 10 touchdowns on 23 attempts. Everybody else, dude, it's like a ton of attempts to get more touchdowns than that. 12 fantasy points week 2 at Cincinnati with a rushing touchdown. Expect, 60 yards and a rushing touchdown from Gus Edwards this week with potential high-scoring game, high over and under for multiple touchdowns. Next up, my fucking stash of the year, I kept on saying, and then I dropped his ass like an idiot. Keaton Mitchel, running back 56. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm pressing play on this dude. 3 rushes for 34 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean, dude, his touchdown come from like 30 yards. He had a 39 rushing yard touchdown, ended up with 34 yards. That's not great. He did have 1 reception for 32 yards last week versus Cleveland. Touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. both in which he ran the 2 fastest speeds of any Ravens ball carrier this season. So 2 touchdowns, 2 fastest speeds for the Ravens. He has 15 touches on the year, which is fucking crazy. And he already has those 2 fastest times. Running back 3 and running back 17 the last 2 weeks. So I said he's running back 56. He's been a top 5 running back and a top 20 running back in back-to-back weeks. Harbaugh says he is in line for more touches this week. I tend to believe him. 18.8% running back share last week. That is not much. If he gets more than that, that's not really that big of a deal. So John Harbaugh saying he's going to get more rushings, whatever. He could still, be barely used and still have a higher rushing share. He only had 1 carry in the second half, and that is what scares me. But this should be, like I said, an explosive, high-scoring game. That Cleveland game was just kind of fucking weird how it played out. Look for Keaton Mitchell to be flex-worthy moving forward until he's your running back 2, maybe. Next up, Justice Hill, the sacrificial dude I was talking about. Running back 43. I'm pressing pause on this fool. Only 2 rushes for 7 yards last week versus Cleveland. He had 48 snaps in week 9. That's when Keaton Mitchell came on, exploded in his first, exploded everywhere. So he had 48 snaps. And then the next game after that, 13, dude. So he is being sacrificed for Keaton Mitchell touches. You do not want to play Justice Hill probably moving forward. Next up, Zay Flowers, the number 1 wide receiver for this team. Wide receiver 37 on the year. I'm pressing play on this dude. Cincinnati is giving up the 15th most points to wide receivers at 28.4. That is an average matchup. 5 receptions on 6 targets for a team leading 73 yards last week versus Cleveland. The Bengals have allowed just 5.26 yards per man coverage snap. That is 8th best in the league with a 5th ranked 60% defensive success rate. So the Bengals have, they do run man more than average, and their man is like a top 5 man coverage in the league. None of Baltimore's top 3 wide receivers, Zay, Bateman, OBJ, crack even the top 75 wide receivers in fantasy points per route run against man coverage. So Baltimore has been held down by man coverage. That is my one fear here. Zay Flowers ranks the least efficient of the 3. 0.2 fantasy points per route run against man. That is 87th, best among qualified players. That is terrible. He has 82 fantasy points versus zone this year and only 16 versus man. So again, Zay Flowers, he is a rookie. He is not doing well against man, which is kind of counterintuitive because you watch that guy run, you think that no man could stick with him, but that is not the case. 20% target rate. That is second on the team behind only Mark Andrews. So that's what I'm saying. He is the second target on this team. He's the number 1 wide receiver on this team. But on pressure dropbacks, Flowers' target rate drops to just 14%, and he trails all the other wide receivers. The Bengals are 22nd in QB pressures in the NFL, so nothing to worry about there. But I do want to say Hendrickson is number 4 in the NFL quarterback pressures, and he is supposed to play even though hobbled. That is something to look out for. But I'm still pressing play on Zay. Next up, OBJ, wide receiver 71 on the year. I'm pressing pause on this dude, even though he has caught touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. I did not know that until I just did this show. 1 reception on 2 targets for 40 yards and a touchdown last week versus Cleveland. He hit pretty much 20 miles an hour on his 40-yard touchdown. That is his fastest speed since week 14 in 2021. So he is back. Touchdowns in the last 2 games. 50-plus receiving yards only once this year, while reaching 5-plus targets only twice this year. I do not want to bank on that. He had a 7-target game last week. That's great. That's when he got a touchdown. He got a touchdown on 2 targets this last week. Yeah, I don't want to fuck around with that, dude. So I'm pressing pause on this dude. He does have a 30% target share versus man this year, so I think that he is the wide receiver versus man that they want to do. If they go heavy man, I think that's the only reason they're going to be targeting OBJ. Next up, Mandrews, tight end 3 on the year. I'm pressing play on this dude. What else are you going to fucking do, man? Top 3 tight end play every week. Cincinnati allowing the 4th most points to tight ends this year at 12.2. That's a great matchup. 2 receptions on 4 targets for 44 yards last week versus Cleveland. That was not great. 7-plus targets in only 3 games this year. That was a surprise to me. I still thought he was being hyper-targeted. Apparently not. It is a new offensive coordinator, and he is number 5 for in tight ends in targets on the year. So, dude, there are a lot of tight ends getting targeted more than Mark Andrews this season, but he is getting those important targets. He is the number 2 tight end in red zone targets this year. I expect him to catch a touchdown this week. Play. Next up, Baltimore defense. They are defense number 2 on the year. I should be playing them, right? Wrong. Pause. Cincinnati giving up the 24th most points to defenses at 5.8, and dude, the way they've been playing, you cannot stop. Goddamn, as long as Ja'Marr Chase is playing, you cannot stop Joe Burrow right now. So under double-digit fantasy points only once over the last 5 games. They have been killing it, dude. They only scored 4 fantasy points earlier this year, week 2 versus Cincinnati. That was at Cincinnati. Now they are at home, and crazy shit has been happening at Baltimore. Go ask fucking Jared Goff. But yeah, dude, that was with Burrow limping around with a calf injury. They only got 4 points on that. This is a divisional game. It's going to be tough played. They're going to be high scoring. I do not want to play Baltimore defense this week. Last up, dude, people used to draft this fool really high. He was the number 1 fantasy kicker like every fucking year. Justin Tucker, man. I'm pressing play on this dude. He's kicker 12 on the year. Cincinnati allowing the 17th most points to kickers at 8.7. That is an average matchup. He has scored double-digit points only 3 times this year. I want double digits from my kicker. We're heading into week 11. And yeah, dude, so less than 30% of the time, pretty much, this fucker is making me happy. And it's Justin Tucker, dude. What the hell? One of those times were against Cincinnati in week 2, so I am pressing play. There's a very high over and under. Like I said, divisional matchup. 2 good defenses. I want the kickers in these games. Press and play on Tucker. All right, guys, that is the show. Thank you so much for watching. If you disagree with anything I said, please let me know in the comments. I am willing to change my mind given new information. Hopefully, I earned a thumbs up. Hopefully, I earned a subscription. If you are not already subscribed, please subscribe. We need your help. If we can get this, if we can get enough subscriptions, we could do better content, higher quality content, earlier content when it should come out. But we've got full-time jobs. We're poor. It is tough right now. But we're doing the best we can. So please support the show. This is Tyler Big Turd Ward, and I appreciate you.